A pattern destroys all great empires, not war or invasion or revolution. Economic collapse, specifically currency collapse. It happens the same way every time. Rome ruled for 500 years. Its currency became completely worthless. Spain controlled more gold and silver. It went bankrupt again and again. Britain dominated global trade for years. It lost its empire very quickly. 4 empires followed this exact pattern. Military overextension comes first always, then unsustainable spending follows after. Currency debasement or money printing next, then inflation, then lost confidence, then total collapse happens finally. The leaders always thought they were different, they were always completely wrong. Now America follows the same pattern, step by step, warning by warning. Are we near the beginning now, or the middle, or the end? This is the story of currency, how empires destroy themselves with it. Start with Rome. It dominated everywhere, Europe, North Africa, the Middle East. It controlled millions of people easily. Its military was completely unmatched. Its infrastructure was the most advanced. Its currency was the denarius. It was trusted from Britain to Egypt. The denarius was pure silver coin. It held its value for centuries. The government maintained its pure quality. You knew its value was real. This trust funded Rome's great expansion. It paid its soldiers and builders. But empires are always too expensive. Rome's borders grew every single generation. More soldiers were needed always, more forts, more roads, more administration. Eventually, Rome spent more than earned. So they debased their own currency. Emperor Nero was the very first. He reduced the silver content significantly. He funded his lavish lifestyle easily. He paid for expensive military campaigns. He reduced silver from 98% to 93%. That extra 5% was pure profit. He could mint many more coins. Same silver meant more coins circulating. That is the definition of inflation. But 93% silver was still good. The real destruction came much later. Emperor Caracalla ruled in 215 AD. The denarius was down to 50% silver, half real value, half base metal. By 270 AD under Emperor Gallienus, it fell to just 5% silver. The coin was once pure silver. Now 95% was worthless metal. Just a thin silver coating remained. Think about a Roman soldier then. His pay was in debased denarii. His coins were worth 1/50th of before. The government said nothing had changed. The coins still said denarius on them. They still had the emperor's face. But the purchasing power had totally collapsed. Prices exploded across the entire empire. What cost 1 denarius now cost 200. Farmers stopped selling food for coins. They demanded barter instead immediately. Soldiers refused to fight without gold. Tax collectors could not collect taxes. The entire economic system seized up. This was not from foreign invasion. Rome's borders were still strongly defended. It was not from plague or disaster. This was completely self-inflicted by Rome. The government destroyed its own money. It funded spending it could not afford. The currency died. The empire died too. By 476 AD, the Western Empire collapsed. Germanic tribes were not stronger, really. Rome could not pay its armies. It could not fund its administration. It could not maintain its infrastructure. The currency became totally irrelevant. Everything built on it collapsed completely. The pattern was proven for history. Military expansion, unsustainable spending, currency debasement, inflation, loss of economic function, collapse. Every empire since has repeated it. Now jump to Spain's golden age. Columbus opened the New World widely. Cortés conquered the Aztecs completely. Pizarro conquered the Incas easily. Spain controlled the richest territories on earth. In 1545 they found Potosi, the largest silver deposit ever discovered. For a century it produced half of all the world's silver. Millions of pounds of pure silver. Ships loaded with silver crossed oceans. Spanish coffers filled with endless wealth. Spain minted the silver into coins. The Spanish dollar was the first true global currency ever. It was used from Europe to Asia. It was trusted. It was pure. There was an endless supply of it. Spain became the richest empire ever. It controlled territories on every continent. The sun never set on Spain. Then they destroyed themselves like Rome. Here is the paradox of money. More money does not make you richer, not if everyone has more money. Spain flooded all of Europe with silver. Prices rose dramatically everywhere. What cost 1 coin now cost 4. The silver had not become less pure. There was just vastly more of it. That is inflation in its essence. Spain was destroying silver's value itself. Worse, Spain was not producing anything. It was not building new industries. It was not innovating at all. It just extracted wealth from colonies. It spent it on wars and palaces. It bought luxury goods from others. The silver flowed in from Americas. It flowed right out to rivals. To France, to England, to Netherlands. Spain paid for goods it lacked. By the late 1500s, kings drowned in debt. King Philip II inherited massive debt. He did not cut spending at all. He borrowed more and more money. He fought wars on many fronts, against the Ottoman Empire, against rebels, against England. The debt was unpayable, so he defaulted in the year 1557. He declared bankruptcy and suspended payments. This was the first sovereign default ever, but it was not the last one. Spain defaulted again in 1575, then again in 1596, then 1607, 4 defaults in just 50 years. Despite controlling half the world's silver, Spain could not pay its debts. Each default destroyed trust completely. Lenders refused to lend to Spain. Interest rates on its debts skyrocketed. The government debased the currency again. They minted coins with less silver. They introduced copper coins as valuable. Nobody believed the new coin's value. The currency lost all its credibility. By the 1650s, Spain was in decline. The military could not be funded. The colonies began to break away. The 30 Years' War ended in 1648. The Peace of Westphalia was signed. It marked the beginning of the end. By 1700, the Spanish Empire was over. The richest country spent itself into irrelevance. The pattern repeated exactly once more. Massive wealth influx, government overspending, excessive borrowing, currency inflation, repeated defaults, loss of confidence, collapse. Spain proved endless resources cannot save you. Now we come to Britain's empire. It lasted longer than all others. It stretched further than all others. It controlled more wealth than all others. At its peak, it governed 500 million, 1/4 of the world's population, 1/4 of the world's total land. The sun never set on British rule. The British pound was its foundation. For 2 centuries, it was world's money. Over 60% of trade used pounds. The gold standard anchored it all. 1 pound equaled a fixed gold amount. This created deep trust and stability. But empires are built on credit, and all credit must be repaid. Britain funded its empire with borrowing. Government bonds financed wars and colonies. This worked while the pound held value. Then World War I happened suddenly. In 1914, debt was $650 million, and by 1918, it was over $7 billion, a 10-fold increase in 4 years. Britain borrowed from everyone to fight. It borrowed from its own citizens. It borrowed from the United States. The war forced Britain off gold. In 1914, they suspended gold convertibility. They had to print money to fight. The pound became a fiat currency, backed by nothing but a promise. After the war, they tried to return. Winston Churchill made a huge mistake. He returned to gold at pre-war rate. The pound was now overvalued badly. British exports became totally uncompetitive. Unemployment soared to terrible levels. The government kept interest rates high. This crushed all economic growth completely. By 1931, Britain left gold forever. The pound was devalued significantly then. Trust in the currency began eroding. The real destruction came after World War II. Britain entered the war already in debt. The war cost them absolutely everything. By 1945, debt was 250% of GDP. The empire had bankrupted itself to win. Entire cities were in complete ruins. The economy was totally and utterly shattered. Britain owed massive debts to America. In 1944, the Bretton Woods conference happened. The US dollar replaced the British pound. It became the primary reserve currency. Britain fought to keep the pound's status. But it was completely over for them. They had the debt, not the gold. They had no economy to back it. A slow, humiliating decline followed after. In 1947, they tried convertibility again. The experiment lasted only weeks. A run on the pound stopped it. In 1949, the pound was devalued by 30%. In 1967, it was devalued again. Each devaluation destroyed people's savings. It crushed all international confidence. It signaled Britain was not first-rate. Meanwhile, the empire disintegrated quickly. India gained independence in the year 1947. Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal in 1956. Britain's military response was a humiliation. Colony after colony broke away completely. Not from conquest by outside forces, but because Britain could not afford them. By the 1970s, Britain was almost failed. Inflation hit an unbelievable 25%. The government begged the IMF for bailout. The pound was now a symbol of decline. The empire was lost within decades, not through military defeat at all, through currency collapse and debt only. The pattern repeated perfectly once more: war debt, currency debasement, loss of reserve status, devaluation, inflation, imperial collapse. Britain fell in one generation. Now we come to the present. The United States is the current empire. The US dollar is the reserve currency. Every single warning sign is flashing. Start with the currency's own history. The dollar has been world's money since 1944. Bretton Woods made it the global standard. It was backed by gold at $35. Other nations pegged to the dollar. The dollar was as good as gold. But America spent more than it had. The Vietnam War, the Great Society, military bases all around the world. By the 1960s, governments noticed the problem. America printed more dollars than gold. France under de Gaulle demanded gold. Other nations quickly followed its lead. The gold was leaving Fort Knox. The bluff was being called finally. In 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. No more gold backing at all. The dollar became a pure fiat currency, just like the debased Roman denarius, just like the pound after 1914, backed by nothing but trust alone. At first, it seemed just fine. The petrodollar system created artificial demand. Oil was priced in dollars globally, but the spending never ever stopped. The debt kept growing and growing. In 1966, US debt was $320 billion. By 1980, it was $1 trillion. By 2000, it was $5 trillion. Today, it is over $34 trillion. A 100-fold increase in years. And it is still accelerating fast. The debt is only part of it. Like Rome debasing the denarius slowly, like Spain flooding the world with silver, the United States is printing money. Since 2008, the Fed created trillions. Quantitative easing, they call it nicely. Necessary to stabilize the economy, they said. During COVID, they printed over $6 trillion, more money than the previous century. They told us it would not inflate. That modern economics solved the problem. That we were different this time. We are not different at all. Inflation hit 9% in the year 2022. Real inflation for food and housing is higher. The dollar is being debased right now. And just like Britain before it, the United States is losing its status. In 2000, over 70% of reserves were dollars. Today, it is 58% and still falling. The BRICS nations are building alternatives. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they trade in local currencies now. They create new payment systems quietly. They reduce dollar dependence on purpose. China and Russia buy gold aggressively. Central banks diversify out of dollars. The world prepares for the dollar's fall. The pattern is completely unmistakable now. The US has the same Rome problem. Military overextension is a huge issue. The US maintains 750 bases globally. The defense budget is over $800 billion. Wars in Iraq and Afghanistan cost trillions. The empire is too expensive to maintain. It is funded with debt and printing. Rome could not pay its legions. Spain could not fund its military. Britain could not maintain its empire. The United States is running out of time. See the pattern clearly now. It is the same sequence always. Not similar. Identical in every case. Stage 1 is total dominance. The empire is at its very peak. Military strength, economic power, currency trust. Rome with denarius, Spain with dollar, Britain with pound, America with dollar. The currency is backed by something real, gold, silver, or deep generational trust. The empire seems completely invincible then. Stage 2 is overextension. The empire expands beyond its means. More territory, more military commitments, more promises to its own citizens. Rome expanded across 3 whole continents. Spain tried to control every ocean. Britain colonized a quarter of the world. America has bases on every continent. The costs become completely unsustainable. Stage 3 is deficit spending. The empire spends more than it earns. At first, this seems manageable. They borrow money, they issue bonds, they promise to repay it later. But the deficits become permanent. Rome needed to pay its legions. Spain needed to fund its wars. Britain needed to finance 2 world wars. America runs trillion-dollar deficits yearly. Stage 4 is currency debasement. The empire cannot borrow or tax enough, so they debase the currency itself. Rome reduced silver in the denarius. Spain flooded the market with silver. Britain abandoned gold and devalued twice. America left gold and prints endlessly. Stage 5 is always inflation. More currency with same real goods. Prices must rise as a result. Rome saw prices increase 1,000-fold. Spain experienced price inflation across Europe. Britain saw 25% inflation in the 1970s. America experiences inflation right now. Stage 6 is lost confidence. The people and foreign nations lose trust. Roman soldiers demanded payment in gold. Spanish creditors refused to lend anymore. The world shifted from pounds to dollars. Today, nations shift away from the dollar. Stage 7 is the final collapse. The economic system fails completely. The currency becomes totally worthless. The empire cannot fund its military. Rome fell to Germanic tribes. Spain declined into total irrelevance. Britain lost its empire in decades. The US is the question now. 7 stages across 2,000 years. Different empires, different continents, different currencies. The same sequence. The math never ever changes. You cannot spend more forever. You cannot print real prosperity. You cannot debase without consequences. The pattern is absolute and unforgiving. We are in stage 5 now. We head rapidly towards stage 6. What happens next for America? History gives 3 possible outcomes. First is a controlled decline. Britain, after 1945, lost its empire. It lost reserve currency status. It experienced painful devaluation and inflation. But the country did not disappear. It adjusted to being second tier. A slow and humiliating decline, but not a total collapse. Second is a chaotic collapse. Rome in the 5th century. The currency became completely worthless. The government lost all control. The empire fragmented into pieces. Dark ages followed for centuries. This is the worst-case scenario. Complete systemic breakdown in all areas. Third is a reset and restructure. A new currency system is established, maybe backed by gold once again. Maybe a new reserve currency emerges, China's yuan, a basket of currencies, digital currencies from central banks. The old system dies completely. Something new replaces it quickly. Painful, but ultimately survivable for all. The United States is at the crossroads. The debt cannot be repaid now, not at these levels of spending. The only options are 3. Default, inflation, or restructuring. Default would destroy dollar hegemony instantly. Inflation is already happening right now. It will likely accelerate soon. Restructuring needs political will today. That political will does not exist. This time is different in one way. Rome, Spain, Britain were regional empires. The US dollar is the global currency. When the denarius collapsed, Rome suffered. When the dollar collapses, the world suffers. Every central bank will be affected. Every trade agreement will feel it. Every financial market will amplify the chaos. The pattern says it is coming, not from prediction, from clear precedent. 4 empires, 4 currency collapses, 4 identical sequences of events. The math of empire is ruthless. You can delay it for a while, you can deny it is happening, but you cannot avoid it forever. Rome debased its currency for legions. The denarius died. The empire fell. Spain flooded the world with silver. Inflation destroyed its vast wealth. The empire declined into nothing. Britain borrowed to fight world wars. The pound collapsed. The empire dissolved. Now the United States prints trillions. It runs endless deficits every year. It believes it is different somehow. It is not different at all. The pattern does not care about exceptionalism. It does not care about military strength. It does not care about technology. The pattern is purely economic. Economic laws are as absolute as physics. You cannot print real wealth forever. You cannot borrow forever and ever. You cannot debase your currency safely. 4 empires, 4 total collapses, 4 identical historical patterns repeating. The only question left is timing. How long until stage 6 arrives? How long until confidence is lost? How long until America follows others? The pattern says we are close. The debt says we are close. The money printing says we are close. History has seen this sequence before. It says the ending is inevitable. The only variable is the speed, and how painful it will be. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe now to this channel. When the pattern completes its cycle, you will want to understand why. History has all the answers. The pattern never ever lies.